there are 7 things that I wish I knew about when learning piano that my piano teachers never even told me about. And I'm ticked off, because if I knew about these, I would have learned my pieces faster and would be able to play much better. Well, guess what? Your piano teacher Tim has you covered, because that's what we're doing today. And let's get on to number 1.
I like to play.
Number 1 thing I wish I knew about when I first started playing is that you can actually have your fingers curved too much. And I'm going to show you what I mean by this and how to avoid it. So if you lay out your fingers right out in front of you and you let gravity do its work, you release the muscles, and hey, what happened to your hand? What happened to it? Nothing's wrong with it. Your fingers are now curved as they should be. Now, when you're playing on the piano and you have your fingers curved, it makes it a lot easier to play it up and down on the piano. Well, guess what? If you have your fingers out like this and they're tight, you can't play up and down the piano. In fact, it kind of hurts my hand, to be honest. So this, believe it or not, the fingers curved is like the natural hand position. Doing this, which a lot of students do when they're first learning how to curve their fingers. In fact, some books even say to make sure you're grabbing, like you're grasping an imaginary ball. And I don't know if I agree with that. I think that's overdoing it a little bit. Now, when you're teaching a youngin', maybe, that's just something that they can grab a hold of a little easier. But remember, if the point is to have your fingers out and then you let gravity do the work, get a natural hand position. It will help you play up and down the piano much, much better. All right, on to number 2.
You said number 2.
Number 2, we're already where we need to be. The pedal is used for effect and not to cover up mistakes. So what a lot of students do is they will hold down the pedal. Unfortunately, you can't really. Let me see if I can get it to where you can see it. Nope. Okay, so what a lot of students do when they use the pedal is they'll play and have the pedal down the entire time. And what happens? It sounds absolutely dreadful. What you want to do is use the pedal in a way that it makes sense. So it adds effect and doesn't just blend all the notes together all at once. But the problem doesn't start there. Stop there, I mean. Because a lot of students, if you use your pedal too much, and actually this is like kind of a key, I know you didn't practice enough, is that they will just hold down the pedal knowing that it will blend the notes together, so that their poor piano teacher, aka me, can't tell what's going on, but I can. So anyway, use the pedal for effect, and don't use it to cover up your mistakes. You're only cheating yourself. On to number 3.
Oh, no. I haven't played in so long. I couldn't.
Tip number 3 is that when notes are beamed together, like, you have your 8th notes, there's a reason they do that. And I know you're thinking, gee, it seems like they don't do anything for any reason in music. And sometimes you're right, but guess what? In this case, there's actually a reason. And it's because when notes are beamed together, like so, that signifies that that grouping equals 1 beat 99% of the time. You're going to have to use your own judgment to double check. But you can see here that we have 4 groupings of 8th notes. And that makes sense, right? Because we have 4 beats in each measure. And we have an 8th note worth half of a beat. 2 halves make a whole beat. And there are our 4 beats. Same thing goes with triplets, 16th notes, and a lot of other cases as well. Like if I had that down there, these 3 together would equal how much? That's right, kids. It would equal 1 beat. Let me write out a slightly complicated rhythm, and I'll show you how you can use this little technique to your advantage. Okay, so here we have a measure of 4/4, and I want to identify very quickly what the 4 beats are. Well, guess what? We're in luck, because we can use the thing I just talked about and group them based on what they're beamed, where they're beamed, I mean. What about this one, right? Because I have beats 1, 2, well, this would be 3, we need 4. Well, single 8th note, quarter note, that's what that is. And that equals a beat all on its own. So there are our 4 beats, and you can use that to quickly figure out basically where the beats are and to double check to make sure you're playing the right rhythms. All right, let's get on to number 4, guys.
I'm gonna have to rethink some.
Tip number 4 is the ledger line trick. What is it, Tim? Well, I'm going to tell you what it is right now. Okay, this is the ledger line trick. Hopefully you know your lines and spaces of each clef. If you don't, I have plenty of lessons around on the channel just for you. Okay, so the ledger line trick is as follows. These notes right here, F, A, C, E, you remember it spells face, are the same as these 4 notes right here, F, A, C, E. They're just up an octave. So what that means is that the spaces, the notes of the spaces on the staff, are equal to the lines starting from that top line going up off the staff. And you can use that to figure out your ledger lines, lickety split, nice and easy. So you know that top one is what note? E, of course. So the inverse is true. So do you have one more note with the lines? And you can draw one up there if you want. The inverse is true. So the lines on the staff, which are E, G, B, D, and F, are the same as the spaces going up off the staff. E, G, B, D, and F. The exact same thing is true for the bass clef, except just with the bass clef notes. So be careful. So that one is a very helpful one for a lot of students because we all struggle, well, a lot of us anyway, reading those notes high up off the staff and low as well. Let's get on to the next tip. We only have a few more.
You guys give up or you're thirsty for more?
Tip number 5, I say this on the channel a lot, but a lot of students aren't practicing it, and that is sight reading. Please practice sight reading every day. And it's something that I didn't know about until maybe I was in college. And my teacher was like, hey, sight read this. And I was like, do what? And he was like, sight read this. And I was like, what? And he's like, sight read this. And I was like, what? And he's like, sight reading is when you read a piece of music from sight the first time. And I was like, you can do that? And he made me do it. So it's something you want to learn how to do. I have a lot of lessons on the channel about how to do this. Just type in sight reading piano lessons on the web, or I have courses over on my website that can also help you out, pianolessonsontheweb.com. But sight reading, if you're not practicing it, make it part of your practice routine. And yes, it's a real thing. All right, on to the next tip. Did you know? Remember those commercials like do 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 do? That practicing is a good thing, but practicing too much can also be a good thing, but sometimes a bad thing. Well, what I'm trying to get to is that tip number 6 is actually sometimes it's a good thing to take a day off from practice, especially if you've been practicing a lot recently. So does this sound like you? Man, I've been practicing so much, but I feel like, my pieces aren't getting any better. I don't understand why. I've been putting in the work. Tim, please tell me what to do. You might want to take a day off, or maybe even a week off. Don't take too long. You want to get back to it, without taking too much time off. All right. It's time for the power tip. Power tip. Before we finish out the lesson with some other tips, is you want to practice your scales. Now, a lot of people do know about scales and what they are and, so on and so forth, but there's a reason we practice our scales, and they are as such. Scales really help with learning finger crosses. They learn also developing dexterity between both hands because you will be crossing at different times, and you have to work on the coordination, hitting the same note at the same time. They help us learn our key signatures and the layout of those key signatures, meaning like what notes are sharp. So if I'm in the key of D, what notes are sharp or flat, and where on the piano do those notes hit. All right, on to the next one. There's one more. This one, I want to let you know, and I'm being honest with you here. When you learn piano, there's going to be a time where you're going to want to quit.
I'm not leaving.
This happens to pretty much everybody, except for those weirdos out there. Every person I've ever met, including myself, has wanted to quit at certain times or another, even if you've been playing for a long time. Not quit entirely, but sometimes it's just like, I'm just kind of over it for a little bit. And some people, unfortunately, quit forever. So I wanted to let you know that this will happen to you. And you have to remember why you first started learning in the first place. Why do you want to learn how to play piano?
Because I want to fit in.
What motivated you? What inspires you? Dig into those things, and it will help you re-engage your love for piano. So either listen to artists that you respect, or try to remember why you began in the first place. There's more. I have a question for some of you in the comments, and answer it right now. It is, what do you think is the most useful thing I talked about today? What is one thing that I added or I talked about in this list that you either didn't know, or maybe you didn't consider, or maybe it made a light bulb go off? And then if there wasn't anything, was there anything you would add to this list? Who knows? I might make another one. Well, as always, friends, go to pianolessonsontheweb.com to check out the courses I have over there. Code YouTube for 15% off. You want to make sure, it is really important, don't leave the video yet, that you watch this next video right here. It's going to be some other important playing tips. That's what this channel is all about. So thanks, everybody. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification, and I'll see you guys, students, in the next lesson. Have a great day.
The show goes on!